I still remember that day. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds, and a cold wind swept through the small cemetery as if nature itself was mourning. I stood at the entrance, my hands trembling slightly, clutching a bouquet of white lilies. The flowers felt heavy, not because of their weight, but because of the grief that pressed on my chest. My husband, the man I had loved for over 30 years, was gone, and I had to face this day without him. The funeral was small, only family and a few close friends. I could hear the soft murmurs of people greeting each other, their voices low, respectful. The rustling of the leaves in the wind, the distant sound of a car engine starting and stopping. And the faint hum of voices created a strange, eerie background. I felt a cold sweat on my forehead. This was supposed to be a day of farewell, but I had no idea that it was going to become one of the most humiliating and shocking days of my life. As I approached the gathering, I saw my daughter-in-law. She was young, much younger than me, with a sharp look on her face, and her eyes darted around, taking in everything. I had always tried to maintain peace, even when she was rude or disrespectful in small ways, but today, I didn't expect the sting she would deliver. She looked at me from head to toe, her lips curling into a small, mocking smile. I froze for a moment, unable to believe that she would dare, at my husband's funeral, to look at me that way. The memory of our previous interactions flashed through my mind. She had always been slightly dismissive, but never outright cruel. Today, though, her confidence seemed sharper, colder. My son, standing nearby, hadn't noticed it yet. Perhaps he was too consumed with his own grief to see the subtle tension building. I could hear his soft, shaky voice as he tried to speak with relatives, his hands occasionally brushing against mine, offering what comfort he could. I remember feeling a mix of shock, sadness, and anger building inside me. How could she act so thoughtlessly at a time like this? I tried to calm myself, focusing on the ceremony, the prayers, the eulogies, trying to push away her sneers. But then she spoke loud enough that I could hear her words, even from across the room. "She really thinks she looks good in that dress," she whispered to her friend, her voice full of amusement. The words hit me like a cold slap. I froze, staring at her, my heart pounding. People were around, whispering, crying, mourning, and there she was, making fun of me, the widow, in the most shameful way possible. I wanted to say something to confront her, but I held back. My hands clenched the bouquet tighter, the lilies bruising under my grip, and then I noticed something strange. Her eyes flickered with a subtle unease, almost like she had realized something she shouldn't know, or maybe something was about to happen. I couldn't place it at first, but there was a tension, a ripple in her confidence. My mind raced. I had always felt there was more beneath the surface with her. A hidden arrogance, a hidden fear, but I had never expected it to surface like this. The ceremony went on. The priest spoke softly, words blending into the background for a moment as I focused on the strange feeling growing inside me. I kept glancing at her, and every time our eyes met, I saw something fleeting. Was it guilt? Or was it a secret she was afraid to reveal? The hairs on my arms stood up, and a shiver ran down my spine. After the final prayers, when everyone approached to offer condolences, she came closer. Her steps were deliberate, almost calculated, and her eyes locked on mine with a curious mixture of disdain and hesitation. My son was behind her, distracted by relatives. She leaned in, smiling slightly, and whispered, "You really shouldn't have worn that dress." I could feel the weight of every word. It wasn't just an insult. It was a challenge, a test. My heart raced, my hands shaking, and a strange thought entered my mind. What if she didn't know who I really was? What if this moment could change everything between us forever? I forced a polite smile and nodded, saying nothing. But inside, a storm was brewing. I had always kept secrets, small ones, nothing harmful, but today I realized that some secrets had power. And perhaps the truth, if revealed, could shake her world as much as my own had been shaken today. As the funeral ended and people began to leave, I felt her eyes on me, following my every move. I could hear soft whispers behind me, the distant sound of cars pulling away, the rustle of clothing, the soft, uneven steps of my son walking beside me. And then I saw something that made my breath catch in my throat. She froze, her face paling slightly, staring at something I couldn't yet see. I turned slowly, my heart pounding, and in that moment I realized that this day was far from over. And what I was about to discover could change everything I thought I knew about my family. I don't know yet what she saw, but the fear and shock in her eyes told me one thing: something was coming, and it would shake us all to the core. I still remember that day. The moment she froze, her face turning pale as though she had seen a ghost. I turned slowly, trying to follow her gaze, and my heart skipped a beat. At first, I didn't see anything unusual, just the gray sky, the scattered flowers, and the quiet cemetery around us. But then my eyes landed on a small folded envelope lying in the grass near the gravestone. It wasn't just lying there casually. It seemed placed deliberate, as if someone wanted me to find it. The wind picked up, rustling the pages of the program in my hands. I bent down slowly, my fingers trembling, and picked up the envelope. It was plain, white, and sealed, with my name written in a handwriting I didn't immediately recognize. My mind raced. Who would leave something here, at this place, on this day? And why? I felt a chill run down my spine, a mixture of fear, curiosity, and excitement. Before I could even open it, my daughter-in-law stepped closer, her eyes wide and uncertain. "What is that?" she asked softly, her voice lacking the usual mockery. There was something in her tone, a nervousness, a crack in her confidence that I had never heard before. I don't know," I replied, my voice shaking slightly. I turned the envelope over in my hands, feeling the crispness of the paper, the faint texture of the handwriting. There was no stamp, no return address, nothing that could give me a clue about who had left it. My son, noticing the tension, came up beside me. "Mom, is everything okay?" he asked gently. I could see the sadness in his eyes, the grief that weighed heavily on his face, but there was also a flicker of curiosity. He too sensed that something unusual was happening. I slowly broke the seal, my hands trembling. Inside, there was a folded piece of paper. The handwriting was elegant, careful, and yet somehow familiar. I unfolded it and began to read, my heart pounding with every word. "I know the truth. I know who you really are. Beware of her." The words hit me like a cold wave. I could feel the blood drain from my face. My daughter-in-law stepped back, her lips parting in shock. My son looked confused, his brow furrowing. My mind raced. Who could have left this? And what did it mean? Beware of her. Who was she? And why did someone feel the need to warn me? I glanced at my daughter-in-law. Her eyes were wide, and I finally understood the flicker of fear I had seen in her earlier. She had recognized something, sensed something, and now this note confirmed that someone else did too. My heart pounded harder. There were secrets here, deep, hidden, dangerous, and suddenly. The funeral felt like the calm before a storm. The cemetery was quiet, almost too quiet. The soft rustle of leaves, the distant caw of a crow, the whisper of the wind in the trees, all of it seemed amplified. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my chest tight, as though the world had slowed and everything around me was holding its breath. I wanted to run, to leave, to escape the tension. But some part of me knew I had to uncover the truth. I tucked the note into my pocket and turned to my son. "Keep an eye on her," I said softly, nodding toward my daughter-in-law. My voice was steady, but my hands shook. He looked at me, puzzled, but trusted me enough not to question it. The drive home was silent, filled only with the sound of tires crunching over gravel and the low hum of the car engine. My son occasionally glanced at me, as if sensing my anxiety, but didn't ask questions. My daughter-in-law sat in the back seat, her fingers twisting in her lap, avoiding my gaze entirely. I could feel her unease, her guilt, maybe her fear, but I didn't yet understand why. When we reached home, the quiet house felt heavier than usual. My husband's absence echoed in every corner. I could feel it in the air: the empty chair at the dining table, the untouched books on the shelf, the quiet ticking of the clock in the living room. I placed the note on the kitchen counter, staring at it for a long time. Who had written it? And what did they know about me that could put me and maybe my family in danger? Later that evening, as I was preparing tea, my daughter-in-law approached cautiously. "Mom," she began, her voice trembling, Do you know something?" Her eyes searched mine, desperate for answers. I looked at her carefully. She wasn't mocking anymore. She seemed scared. The dynamic between us had shifted in a single day. I swallowed hard. "I don't know everything yet," I admitted. "But I'm starting to." Her eyes widened. She took a small step back, as though trying to create distance. "I think you need to be careful," she whispered. And then she turned and left the room, closing the door softly behind her. A sense of dread filled me. There was something she knew, or something she feared. And whatever it was connected to me. I felt the weight of decades of hidden truths pressing on me. Secrets I had thought were safe, buried in the past, suddenly felt exposed, vulnerable. That night, sleep eluded me. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint creak of the house settling, the distant howl of a dog, the soft tapping of rain against the window. My mind replayed the events of the day over and over. The note, her expression, the chilling words, "Beware of her." Who was the her? And why would someone send me a warning at this moment on the day I had lost my husband? Hours passed, and finally exhaustion took over. I drifted into a shallow sleep, only to wake moments later to a soft knock on the front door. My heart leaped into my throat. Who could be visiting at this hour? My son was asleep in the other room. My daughter-in-law had retired early. I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. No one was there. Just the empty, dark driveway, shrouded in shadows, the rain tapping lightly on the pavement. I opened the door slowly. Nothing. Only a small envelope lay on the doorstep, similar to the one at the cemetery. My hands shook as I picked it up. The handwriting looked almost identical. I opened it, and inside was a single sentence. Written in bold black ink. "You are not alone, but you must uncover the truth before it finds you." The words sent a shiver down my spine. My pulse quickened, and I felt a strange mix of fear and determination. Someone was watching, guiding, warning me. And whatever this truth was, it was bigger than I had imagined. I knew in that moment that my life was about to change forever. This wasn't just about a funeral or a mocking comment from my daughter-in-law. This was the beginning of something far deeper, far darker, and I had no choice but to face it. As I stood in the dim light of the hallway, holding the note, I realized one terrifying fact. Someone knew who I really was, and they were waiting. I didn't know who to trust anymore. My daughter-in-law, my son, or even the mysterious stranger leaving these notes. But one thing was certain tonight: the truth would begin to reveal itself, and I had to be ready for what it would bring. I still remember that night. The darkness in the house felt heavier than usual. I sat on the edge of the bed, the note clutched tightly in my hand, my mind racing. Who could have sent these messages? What truth were they talking about? My heart pounded with fear and curiosity. I wanted to cry, to scream, to run away, but I knew deep down that running wouldn't solve anything. I had to face whatever was coming. The rain tapped lightly on the window, a soft, almost hypnotic rhythm that made my thoughts spin faster. Every creak of the house, every shadow cast by the dim light seemed like a warning. I kept imagining someone lurking just outside, watching me, waiting. The envelope's words echoed in my mind. "You are not alone, but you must uncover the truth before it finds you." I got up quietly and went to the kitchen. The note at the cemetery, the one my daughter Anna had seen, was still on the counter. I unfolded it again, studying the words. Beware of her. Those words haunted me. Who was her? I tried to remember anyone in my life who could fit that description, anyone who might have reasons to interfere with my family. But nothing made sense. The house was silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. I could feel the weight of my grief pressing on me. But now it was mixed with fear. Someone was trying to tell me something. Someone who knew something I didn't, and it terrified me. I heard a soft noise behind me and spun around. My daughter-in-law stood in the doorway, her eyes wide, her face pale. "Mom," she whispered, "I didn't mean to. At the funeral, I didn't know." Her voice trailed off, but her hands trembled. She looked frayed. Something about her tone and her eyes made my skin crawl. "I know," I said slowly, keeping my voice calm. But inside, anger and confusion twisted together. "Do you know anything about these notes?" I held up the latest envelope. Her lips parted, but she didn't answer immediately. Instead, she took a hesitant step closer, her gaze flickering between the note and my eyes. I've seen something," she admitted finally, her voice barely audible. "I didn't tell anyone because I was scared. But now, I think you need to know." She swallowed hard and stepped fully into the room. "There's something about your husband's family. Something you never knew. And someone wants to make sure you find out before it's too late." I felt my stomach drop. My husband's family. What could she possibly mean? I had married into this family decades ago, and while we had our differences, I had never suspected there were secrets hidden so deep. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. "Tell me everything you know." She hesitated, glancing nervously toward the stairs as if someone might be listening. Then she whispered, "It's about your husband, and about what happened years ago. There's a part of his past that no one ever told you, and someone doesn't want it to be revealed." A chill ran down my spine. I thought I knew my husband completely, but now the ground beneath me felt like it was shifting. Could there really be secrets so big that someone would send warnings even after his death? My mind raced, trying to connect the dots. Why now? Why today? Before I could ask more, we heard a sudden noise outside, a soft crunch on the gravel of the driveway. Both of us froze. My heart began to race uncontrollably. "Someone's there," I whispered. My daughter-in-law nodded, eyes wide, clutching the edge of the counter. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped toward the door. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing nothing but the wet driveway glistening under the faint glow of the porch light. I saw footprints in the mud, small, careful, deliberate. Someone had been there recently. I felt a wave of fear wash over me. This wasn't just a note left behind. This was someone watching, someone controlling events from the shadows. My daughter-in-law gasped softly. "Mom, you have to be careful. Whoever this is, they're not just sending messages. They're testing you. And if you make a mistake..." Her voice trembled, and she didn't finish the sentence. But I understood. Danger was near. I closed the door slowly, locking it behind me. My hands were shaking, my chest tight. I felt a strange mix of dread and determination. I couldn't ignore the warnings, and I couldn't stay passive. If someone wanted me to uncover the truth, I had to find out what it was before it was too late. I spent the rest of the night thinking, trying to remember every detail of my husband's past, every conversation, every story he had told me. Was there something I had missed? Something he had hidden? And if there was, who would want to prevent me from finding it? Morning came slowly, gray and cold, just like the day of the funeral. I decided I had to investigate. I couldn't wait for the next note. I started with the old family albums, boxes of letters and papers my husband had left behind. As I went through them, I noticed patterns, small inconsistencies that I hadn't seen before. Letters with missing pages, photos with faces scratched out, names crossed off. Something had been hidden from me. I was finally beginning to see the faint outline of the truth. Then I found it, a letter addressed to me, written in my husband's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. The words inside were careful, deliberate, and chilling. "If anything happens to me, know the truth about my family. Not everyone is who they seem. Trust only yourself." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. My husband had known something, feared something. And now with him gone, it was up to me to uncover it. I glanced at my daughter-in-law, who was sitting silently nearby. She avoided my eyes, but I could feel her tension, her fear. She knew more than she had told me, and somehow I sensed she was hiding something crucial. My mind raced. Could she be part of this? Or was she also trapped in a web of secrets she didn't fully understand? Before I could ask, there was a sudden knock on the door. Hard, insistent, and urgent. My heart jumped into my throat. Who could it be at this hour after everything that had already happened? I slowly walked toward the door, every step feeling heavier than the last. My daughter-in-law followed quietly, her hands trembling. I reached the doorknob, hesitated, and then opened the door, and saw someone I never expected standing there. The figure at the door smiled faintly, but their eyes were cold and calculating. "We need to talk," they said. And in that moment, I realized that everything I thought I knew about my family and my husband was about to be turned upside down. I still remember that night. The air felt thick, heavy, almost suffocating as I stared at the figure at the door. My hands were trembling, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure the stranger could hear it. The porch light cast long shadows stretching across the wet driveway, making the figure look larger than life. I didn't recognize them at first, their face partially hidden under the hood of a coat. But there was something chillingly familiar in their eyes. "We need to talk," the stranger repeated, their voice calm but sharp, cutting through the silence like a knife. I took a cautious step back, my mind racing. Who were they? How did they know about the notes about me? And most importantly, what truth were they referring to? My daughter-in-law moved behind me, whispering nervously, "Mom, be careful." Her voice trembled. I didn't understand why she seemed so scared. After all, we didn't know this person. But something in her tone made me uneasy. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The stranger didn't answer immediately. Instead, they pulled out a small envelope, almost identical to the others I had received, and held it out toward me. I hesitated, but took it cautiously. Inside, there was a single sheet of paper folded neatly. My hands shook as I opened it. The words were simple, but their meaning hit me like a hammer. Your husband's death was not an accident, and someone close to you may not be who they claim to be. I felt my stomach drop. My mind raced. Not an accident. Someone close to me? Could it be? My daughter-in-law. No, that couldn't be. But who else could it be? My son. Someone from my husband's family. The thought of betrayal made my chest tighten. The stranger's eyes never left mine. "You don't have much time," they said. "If you want the truth, you have to act carefully. There are people watching. People who will do anything to stop you." I felt a chill run down my spine. The calmness in their tone made it worse. Wasn't a threat, it was a fact. I wanted to ask who, why, how, but no words came out. My thoughts were jumbled, chaotic, and yet there was a part of me that burned with determination. I had to know the truth. I had to uncover what my husband had hidden. Why me? I finally managed to ask. Why not just tell my son? Or my daughter-in-law? The stranger's lips curled into a faint smile, but their eyes remained serious. "Because you are the only one who can handle it. And because the truth is dangerous. Not everyone is ready for it, but you. You are." I clutched the envelope to my chest, my hands trembling. My daughter-in-law stayed silent, watching, her eyes wide with fear and curiosity. I could feel her tension, and for a moment, I wondered if she knew more than she let on. The stranger took a step back. "I can't stay long. They're watching. But tomorrow, you'll find the first piece of the truth. Follow it carefully. Trust no one blindly." And with that, they turned and walked into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as they had appeared. I closed the door slowly, leaning against it, my mind spinning. My heart was pounding, my hands sweaty. Who was this person? How did they know so much? And what could possibly be so dangerous that even now, after my husband's death, someone was watching and warning me? I sank to the floor, clutching the note, my body shaking. My daughter-in-law knelt beside me, her eyes filled with concern. "Mom, who was that?" she asked softly. I didn't answer. I didn't have the words. I didn't know where to start. That night, sleep was impossible. Every sound, the creak of the house, the wind against the windows, the distant hum of a car felt like a warning. I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were on me, watching, waiting. My thoughts kept returning to the stranger's words. Someone close to you may not be who they claim to be. I thought about my daughter-in-law, her strange behavior, her fear. Could it be her? Or was it someone else entirely, hiding behind a mask of normalcy? My son, the funeral. The note soul of it suddenly felt like pieces of a puzzle I had no way of solving yet. Morning came, gray and heavy. I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I had to start searching for the truth myself. I revisited old letters, old photographs, documents my husband had left behind. I looked for patterns, inconsistencies, anything that could point me in the right direction. And slowly I began to notice small, chilling details, names erased from letters. Blurred photographs, dates crossed out. Then I found a photograph tucked in a book. It was old, taken years ago, of my husband with a small group of people I didn't recognize. One of them, my heart skipped a beat, looked eerily like my daughter-in-law, even though the photo was decades old. How could that be? Could it be her? Or was it someone else entirely? I felt a wave of fear and disbelief. My hands shook as I held the photo. Something connected her or someone like her to my husband's past. And whatever it was, it had been kept secret for decades. I called my son, but he didn't answer. Panic rose in my chest. I needed help, someone I could trust. But who could I turn to? I couldn't tell anyone about the notes, the stranger, or my suspicions. Not yet. Not until I had more answers. I glanced at my daughter-in-law. She watched me silently, her face unreadable. I felt a strange tension between us, a mix of fear, suspicion, and unspoken questions. Could I trust her? Did she know more than she was admitting? The rest of the day passed slowly, each moment filled with dread. Every sound, every shadow, every movement seemed significant. And then, just as the sun was setting, I heard a soft knock at the window. My blood ran cold. I approached slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. I peeked through the curtain, and there, pressed against the glass, was a small note. I recognized the handwriting instantly. It read, "Tonight you will discover the first truth. Be ready." I swallowed hard, my pulse racing. Whatever awaited me tonight, I knew it would change everything. As darkness fell, I felt a presence behind me. I turned slowly, my heart leaping into my throat, hand froze. Someone was in the room with me, someone I thought I could trust. And in that moment, I realized the truth was closer than I had imagined. I still remember that night. The house felt colder than usual, the shadows deeper, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. The note on the window fluttered slightly in the evening breeze. I picked it up, my hands shaking, my mind racing with questions. Tonight, you will discover the first truth. Be ready. I didn't know what to expect. My husband had always been a private man, but I never imagined that his past could be so tangled, so dangerous. And now, with these mysterious notes, the stranger's warning, and my daughter-in-law's strange behavior, I felt like I was standing at the edge of a precipice, looking into a world I didn't fully understand. I sat in the living room, holding the note, trying to calm myself. My daughter-in-law sat on the couch, her hands folded tightly in her lap, staring at me silently. There was fear in her eyes, yes, but also something else, hesitation, maybe guilt. I didn't trust her completely. Not after everything that had happened, but there was no time to waste. I had to act. I decided to start with the photograph I had found. It's the one of my husband with a group of people I didn't recognize. The face that looked like my daughter-in-law, or someone related to her, haunted me. Could it really be her? The thought made my stomach churn. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. I grabbed the photo and the letters my husband had left behind. I spread them on the table and began going through them carefully. There were letters I hadn't read in years, letters with names crossed out, notes scribbled in the margins, small secrets my husband had kept even from me. And then, tucked in a small envelope, I found a letter addressed to my daughter-in-law. My hands froze. Why would my husband write a letter to her? The envelope was sealed and the handwriting was unmistakable his. I felt a surge of anxiety. I wanted to open it, but something in me hesitated. Could this letter explain her strange behavior? Could it reveal the connection to the past? I couldn't resist. I carefully opened the envelope and unfolded the letter. My eyes widened as I read the words. If you are reading this, it means the past has caught up to us. Trust no one completely. The truth about my family must remain hidden unless the right person is ready. Be careful always. And remember, there are those who will stop at nothing to protect secrets that must not be revealed. I felt a shiver run down my spine. This was no ordinary family secret. My husband had been protecting something or someone for years. But what and why had my daughter-in-law received this letter? Before I could think further, I heard a faint noise upstairs, footsteps, soft, deliberate. My heart leaped. My son was supposed to be asleep, and my daughter-in-law was here with me. I wasn't alone. Someone was moving in the house. Someone who shouldn't be. I grabbed the flashlight and moved cautiously toward the stairs. The beam of light cut through the darkness, illuminating the familiar furniture. But shadows shifted strangely along the walls. The footsteps stopped suddenly, as if whoever it was had heard me. My pulse raced. "Who's there?" I called, my voice trembling slightly. No answer. Only silence, thick and heavy, filled the air. I felt a cold sweat on my forehead. The house seemed larger, more menacing in the dark. Each shadow hiding unknown dangers. I moved slowly, step by step, toward the hallway. And then I saw a faint outline of a figure at the end of the hall. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't see clearly, but I could feel the presence of someone watching, waiting. My heart pounded, and I realized that this was no ordinary visitor. Whoever it was, they were here for a reason. And it had to do with the secrets my husband had left behind. I turned on the flashlight fully, pointing it toward the figure. And then recognition struck me like a lightning bolt. It was my daughter-in-law. But something was wrong. Her eyes were wide, almost terrified, and her hands trembled as she held a small, folded piece of paper, the same kind of notes I had been receiving. "Mom," she whispered, her voice shaking. I didn't want to tell you this, but you have to see it. You have to understand the truth about him." About all of this, I took a step closer, my heart racing. She handed me the paper. My hands shook as I unfolded it. The words were written neatly, carefully, in the same handwriting as the previous notes. "The one you trust most is not who they seem. The past has returned, and only you can protect the future." My mind reeled. The one you trust most. Could it be my son? Could it be someone else entirely? The fear and confusion were overwhelming. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into darkness, not knowing which way to turn. And then, before I could react, I heard a soft whisper behind me so close that it seemed to come from inside my own head. "Don't trust her." I froze. My daughter-in-law's eyes widened in terror, and I felt a cold chill run down my spine. Someone or something was in the house with us, watching, manipulating, and testing us. And now the first piece of the truth had been revealed. But it came with a warning. Trust no one. Not even those closest to you. I looked at my daughter-in-law, trying to read her expression. Was she telling the truth, or was she part of the web of secrets? And what exactly had my husband known that could put all of us in danger? The night stretched on, tense and silent. Every sound, the creak of the floorboards, the soft whistle of the wind outside. The distant hum of a car felt amplified, as if it carried a hidden message. I knew I had to act to uncover the truth. But I had no idea where to begin. Then, just as I was about to speak to my daughter-in-law, the lights flickered and went out, plunging the house into darkness. The flashlight in my hand barely cut through the blackness, and I felt a presence move near me. It's close enough that I could hear the faint rustle of clothing. And then, a voice, calm but chilling, whispered from the shadows. "You're closer than you think. But be careful. The next step could change everything." I couldn't see who it was, but I felt their eyes on me, burning with intent. I realized that the next move I made night would determine everything, and I had no idea if I was ready for what was coming. I still remember that night. The darkness felt thicker than ever, pressing in around me like a heavy blanket. My heart was racing, my hands gripping the flashlight so tightly that my knuckles turned white. The voice from the shadows had vanished, leaving only a cold, eerie silence. My daughter-in-law stood a few feet away, her face pale, her eyes wide with fear. I didn't know whether I could trust her or anyone in this house anymore. The blackout made the house feel different, almost alive. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind against the windows, every faint sound from the street outside seemed amplified, as if the shadows themselves were watching me. I swallowed hard, my pulse pounding in my ears, and tried to think clearly. I don't know what's happening, my daughter-in-law said quietly. Her voice trembled, barely audible over the sound of my own heartbeat. But I know some things about your husband's past. Things you were never told. Things that could put all of us in danger if we're not careful. I took a deep breath. My mind was spinning with fear, confusion, and a strange sense of determination. I had to know the truth. I had to understand why my husband's past, the notes, the stranger. And now my daughter-in-law's strange behavior were all connected. Tell me, I said firmly. Everything you know. I can handle it. We need to face this together. Her lips trembled as she nodded. She glanced at the shadows around us, then back at me. It's about your husband's family, she began, her voice shaking. Decades ago, there was an argument, a betrayal. Someone in the family tried to hide something. Something dangerous. Your husband found out and he promised to protect it. He thought it would never come back to haunt us. But it has. I felt my chest tighten. I had always known my husband had secrets, but this was something different. Something dangerous, something that had survived years of silence and deceit. Who tried to hide it? I asked, my voice low but steady. She hesitated, biting her lip. I can't say the name. Not yet, but there are people who would stop at nothing to protect it. People who won't hesitate to hurt anyone who uncovers the truth. That's why the notes. The warnings, they're meant to guide you, to protect you. My mind reeled. The pieces were starting to come together, but the picture was still incomplete. Someone from my husband's family, someone close, had been hiding something dangerous, and now it had returned. And somehow I was in the middle of it all. I glanced at my daughter-in-law. She looked terrified, but sincere. I wanted to trust her, but the stranger's words echoed in my mind. Trust no one blindly. Could she be hiding something? Or was she genuinely helping me? My instincts told me to be cautious, but my heart told me that we needed each other. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the kitchen. We both jumped. I grabbed the flashlight and ran toward the sound, my daughter-in-law following closely behind. The beam of light revealed overturned chairs, papers scattered across the floor. Someone had been here, searching. A cold fear gripped me. Whoever was behind all of this, whoever had sent the notes, whoever had whispered warnings, whoever was watching, they were inside the house. My pulse quickened. They're close, I whispered. They're in the house. My daughter-in-law nodded, her face pale. We have to be careful, she said. If they find the evidence, if they see that, we know. They'll do anything to stop us. I glanced at the scattered papers and noticed one that had fallen near the edge of the table. It was a photograph of my husband with someone I didn't recognize, a person whose face was partially obscured by shadows. My heart skipped a beat. There was something familiar about the posture, the hands. I couldn't be sure, but a chill ran down my spine. We began to carefully gather the papers, trying not to disturb anything else. As we worked, the house grew quieter, almost unnaturally so. The storm outside had passed, leaving a heavy stillness. I felt a presence behind me and instinctively turned. No one was there, but the feeling of being watched remained. Then my daughter-in-law spoke, her voice trembling. Mom, there is something else. Your husband. He knew someone would come after us. That's why he left the letters, the notes, the clues. He knew we'd need them to survive, and he left instructions for you in case anything ever happened. My hands shook as I listened. Instructions? Where? I asked. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small key. This, she said, opens a safe. Your husband left it hidden in the study. Inside, everything. Evidence, letters, photos, even a recording. He wanted you to have it if the truth ever came back to threaten us. My heart pounded. Be safe. A recording evidence. This was the first real step toward uncovering the truth. But the fear remained. Whoever had crashed into the kitchen could still be here, could still be watching. Every shadow felt alive, every sound threatening. I knew we had to move quickly. I led my daughter-in-law to the study, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. The safe was hidden behind a painting, just as she had said. My hands shook as I inserted the key and turned it. The lock clicked open, revealing a small hidden compartment. Inside were letters, photographs, and a small recorder. I picked up the recorder, my hands trembling. I pressed play. My husband's voice filled the room, calm but serious. If you are hearing this, it means the danger has returned. The family secret I protected is at risk. Trust no one blindly. Only the truth will keep you safe. Begin with the letters and follow the clues. Your life and those you love depends on it. I felt a chill run through me. My husband had prepared for this. He had known it would happen, and he had left me instructions to survive, to uncover the truth, to protect the family. But even with his guidance, the danger felt immediate, real, and terrifying. We gathered the letters and photos, my daughter-in-law helping silently. I could feel the weight of what we had just discovered. This was no longer just a mystery. This was a fight for survival, for truth, for understanding what my husband had protected for decades. And then, a shadow moved outside the window, froze. The presence I had felt all night was back, watching us, waiting. My pulse raced. Whoever was out there, they knew we had found the safe. I turned toward my daughter-in-law, whispering, "We're not alone." Before I could take another step, the front door creaked slowly open, and someone stepped inside the house. I still remember that night. The sound of the front door creaking open made my heart leap into my throat. My hands tightened around the flashlight, its beam shaking as it cut through the darkness. My daughter-in-law was frozen beside me, her eyes wide with terror. Whoever had stepped inside the house was no ordinary visitor. They were deliberate, controlled, and I could feel the weight of their intent pressing down on us. A figure emerged from the shadows. Tall, silent, moving with the quiet confidence of someone who had been here before. My pulse raced as I tried to make out their face, but the dim light and the shadows hid their features. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice trembling but loud enough to echo through the empty house. The figure stopped, just a few feet away, and slowly lifted their head. And then I froze. It was someone I never expected, someone I had thought I could trust. My brother-in-law, at least, someone who looked exactly like him, stepped into the room, his eyes cold, calculating. My stomach twisted. "You shouldn't have found the safe," he said calmly, almost mockingly. "Your husband's secrets were never meant for you." Fear and disbelief clashed inside me. My husband's brother, or someone claiming to be him, was here. Could this really be him? Or was it someone else, wearing a mask of familiarity to manipulate me? I glanced at my daughter-in-law. She looked as shocked as I felt, and for the first time I saw fear and guilt mixed on her face. "Why are you here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you want from us?" He smiled faintly, a cold, chilling smile. "I want what my family has always protected," he said. "The truth your husband discovered. The secret he promised to hide. It's mine, and I won't let anyone take it. Not even you." I felt my pulse quicken. The safe, the letters, the photographs, they were all connected to this secret. And now, the danger wasn't just warnings in envelopes. It was real, immediate, and standing right in front of me. My daughter-in-law stepped forward cautiously. "You don't understand," she said softly. "We don't want to take anything. We need to know the truth. My husband, your brother, he left instructions for us. He wanted her to find it. His eyes narrowed, suspicion and anger flashing. You don't know what you're dealing with, he said. That's secret. It's powerful, dangerous, and anyone who tries to uncover it will pay the price. I felt a wave of dread. My husband had been protecting something all these years. Something someone was willing to kill or hurt anyone to keep hidden. And now it was up to me to uncover it, to understand it, and to survive. I took a step closer, trying to show courage even though my hands were shaking. I have the letters, I said. I have the photographs. And I have the recording. If you really cared about our family, you would at least let me hear what my husband wanted me to know. Ah! He laughed softly, a sound that sent chills down my spine. You think it's that simple? You think a recording and some letters will tell you everything? The truth isn't something you can just read or hear. It's something you must experience. Something you must survive. A cold fear gripped me. His words weren't just threats, they were warnings. And in that moment, I realized how little I truly knew about my husband's past, about the people around me, and about the danger we were now in. My daughter-in-law whispered something to me, barely audible. Mom, remember the instructions? He said, trust no one blindly, not even family. The words echoed in my mind. I felt a shiver run through me. Could my husband have known that even his own family might be untrustworthy? The thought was terrifying, but it also gave me a sense of clarity. I had to rely on my instincts. I had to be careful, clever, and relentless. The figure in front of me moved closer, his eyes never leaving mine. Tonight, he said, you will make a choice. Either you hand over what your husband left behind, or you face the consequences. And I promise, the consequences will be severe. I felt my chest tighten. I knew we couldn't give him the letters or the safe. The secrets inside were too important, and my husband had trusted me to protect them. But how could I keep them safe from someone so determined, so dangerous, and so close to my family? Then, just as tension reached its peak, a sudden noise came from the window behind him, a soft, deliberate sound, like a piece of metal scraping against glass. He turned sharply, his attention momentarily diverted. My daughter-in-law grabbed my hand, and we moved quickly, slipping past him toward the study where the safe still lay open. The moment was chaotic. Shadows danced across the walls, the sound of our footsteps mixing with his frustrated shouts. The house felt alive with tension, every corner hiding a potential threat. I grabbed the letters and the recorder, shoving them into my bag. And we bolted toward the back door. But just as I reached it, he blocked our path. His presence was overwhelming, and for a moment, I felt trapped, cornered, powerless. The realization hit me with a wave of fear. The danger wasn't just outside the house. It was inside, within our own family, and it was watching, waiting for us to make a mistake. I looked at my daughter-in-law, fear mirrored in her eyes. She whispered, almost to herself, Mom, we have to run. I nodded, my heart racing, and together we made a sudden, desperate dash past him, slipping into the night, the cool air hitting our faces. The letters and the recorder were clutched tightly in my hands. Behind us, the figure shouted, furious, but we didn't look back. We had to survive. We had to uncover the truth. And we had to protect what my husband had left behind as we ran into the darkness. The night felt endless, and I knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The first revelation had come, but the real truth, the dangerous secret my husband had protected for decades, was still out there, waiting. And whoever was after us would not give up easily. I still remember that night. The cold air stung my face as my daughter-in-law and I ran through the dark streets behind our house. My heart pounded like a drum, and every shadow seemed alive. Every rustle of leaves a warning. The letters and recorder were clutched tightly in my hands. I could feel the weight of what we carried, the truth my husband had left behind. And the danger that was chasing us. The figure from the house hadn't pursued us immediately, but I knew they would. Whoever they weren't going to let us go easily. My daughter-in-law glanced at me, her eyes wide and fearful. Mom, what now? She whispered. I shook my head. I didn't know. All I knew was that we had to find somewhere safe. Somewhere we could finally start uncovering the secrets my husband had left behind. Somewhere we could plan, think, and survive. We reached my car, parked a few blocks away, and quickly got in. I started the engine, my hands shaking as I drove through the quiet streets. Every passing car made me jump. Every shadow on the sidewalk looked like the figure from our house, the one who had blocked the back door. Once we were a few miles away, we finally slowed down and parked near a small, abandoned park. I cut the engine and sat in silence, my chest heaving. My daughter-in-law clutched my hand. "Mom, we can't go back there," she said. "We need to figure out what's really going on. What he left for us? It's bigger than anything I imagined." I nodded, swallowing hard. I opened the recorder and pressed play. My husband's voice filled the car, calm but urgent. The letters, the photographs. "The safe they are only the beginning. There is a secret that must be protected. Someone in the family sought to hide it for decades. If you are listening, it means the danger has returned. Trust no one blindly. Only follow the clues, and you may survive." My hands shook as I rewound the tape, listening again. Every word was deliberate. My husband had prepared us for this, but even with his instructions, I felt overwhelmed. I didn't understand the full scope of the danger. And I didn't know who was truly trustworthy. My daughter-in-law leaned closer. "Mom, the letters. I think they're connected to old accounts, hidden properties, and documents that no one knew existed. Your husband was protecting something. Something powerful. And if it falls into the wrong hands, it could destroy us." I swallowed hard. Powerful, dangerous. My pulse raced. My husband's family. The person in our house. The notes. It all began to make a chilling kind of sense. Someone wanted what he had hidden. And someone was willing to threaten or even kill to get it. Suddenly, the sound of tires on gravel made us both freeze. My heart leaped into my throat. A car was approaching slowly, headlights dimmed through the trees. I ducked behind the seat instinctively, motioning for my daughter-in-law to do the same. The car stopped a few feet from us. My hands gripped the letters and the recorder tighter. A figure stepped out tall, shadowed by the dim light, watching us. My stomach churned. Was it him? Or was it someone else, sent to follow us? Then the figure moved closer. I could see them more clearly, and my heart nearly stopped. It wasn't the same person from the house. This was someone different. Someone older. Someone who carried authority in their movements. Someone who seemed familiar, Mom. "Do you know them?" My daughter-in-law whispered, fear lacing her words. I shook my head. I didn't. And yet my gut screamed that this person was connected to everything my husband. The secrets, the danger. They reached into their coat and pulled out an envelope, tossing it gently toward the car. I picked it up with trembling hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper, and when I read it, my blood ran cold. "You have uncovered the first layer. The next step will reveal the past end, the betrayal you never suspected. Trust carefully. Time is short." The message was clear. This was no longer just about hidden letters or safe deposits. This was about betrayal, danger, and the very past my husband had lived through. Someone had lied to us for years, someone close to the family. And now they were watching, guiding, testing, even threatening us. I looked at my daughter-in-law. Her face was pale, her eyes filled with fear, but also a strange determination. "Mom, we have to follow it," she said. "Whatever the next step is, we can't ignore it. It's our only chance to survive and to find out what really happened." I nodded, my hands still trembling. The reality hit me. The danger was growing. The secret my husband had protected was not just important, it was life-threatening. And if we didn't uncover it carefully, we could lose everything, including our lives. The car behind us shifted, and I realized that we weren't just being warned, we were being herded, guided, tested. Every move we made was being watched, every decision scrutinized. And in that moment, I understood something terrifying. The past my husband had tried to hide was not done with us. It had returned, and it would not rest until the truth or its consequences were fully revealed. As we drove away slowly, the envelope still clutched in my hands, I realized one thing: the next step would be dangerous, revealing secrets I had never imagined, and testing every ounce of trust I had in the people around me. Somewhere in the shadows, someone was following us, watching, waiting, and I knew with a cold certainty that the next move we made would determine whether we survived or became another part of the secret's deadly history. I still remember that night. The rain had started again, pattering against the car roof as my daughter-in-law and I drove down winding, empty streets. The envelope from the stranger rested on my lap. The words burned into my mind. The next step will reveal the past stand, the betrayal you never suspected. My heart raced. I knew the next revelation would change everything. We parked near an old, abandoned warehouse on the edge of town, the location written on the envelope. My daughter-in-law hesitated, her hand shaking as she reached for mine. "Mom, this place doesn't feel right," she whispered. I nodded silently, feeling the same unease. But there was no turning back. If this was the next step, we had to face it. The warehouse loomed before us, dark and silent. Its broken windows reflected the dim streetlights, and the wind moaned through the gaps in the walls, making the structure feel alive. I could almost hear whispers coming from inside, as if the building itself knew the secrets we were about to uncover. We stepped inside cautiously. The air was cold and damp, carrying the faint smell of rust and dust. Our footsteps echoed, each sound amplified, making us feel exposed, vulnerable. I held the letters and the recorder tightly, as if they were shields against the unknown danger ahead. Then we saw a table in the center of the room, with photographs and old letters spread across it, just like the ones in the safe. My breath caught. The photographs showed people from my husband's past friends, family, strangers I didn't recognize. But one figure stood out. It was my husband, young, smiling, but there was something strange about the photograph. Another person, hidden in shadows, stood next to him. The posture, the hands, the face partially visible was the same person I had seen in the photograph from the safe. A chill ran down my spine. This was no coincidence. This was the secret, the dangerous, hidden truth my husband had protected all his life. My daughter-in-law pointed to a letter on the table. "Mom, this one? I think it explains everything." I picked it up carefully. The letter was old, yellowed with age, and the handwriting was deliberate, controlled. It read, "To the one who finds this, know that the family secret has been protected for generations. Betrayal runs deep. Those you trust most may not be loyal. The past is alive and the consequences are real. Protect the secret or everything will be lost." I felt a surge of fear and anger. Betrayal. The past alive. Everything will be lost. My husband had been carrying this burden alone, and now, after his death, it was my responsibility to continue. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the warehouse. My heart leaped. Someone was approaching, someone deliberate, careful, and close. I grabbed my daughter-in-law's hand, pulling her behind a stack of crates. The letters and photographs were still spread on the table, glowing faintly in the dim light. A figure emerged from the shadows. It was the stranger from before, the one who had handed us the envelope near the abandoned park. Their face was serious, eyes intense. "You found it," they said quietly. "The first pieces of the truth. But this is only the beginning. The family's secret. It's bigger than you imagine. And the one you think you can trust the most may be the very person behind the betrayal." My blood ran cold. I had suspected my daughter-in-law, my son, even my husband's brother. But now the idea that the betrayer could be anyone shook me to my core. I felt my hands tremble, my pulse racing. The stranger continued, "If you want to survive, you need to make a choice tonight. Follow the clues, uncover the truth, and prepare for the confrontation that will determine everything. But be warned, the next step will test your courage, your trust, and your family bonds. One wrong move, and it will be too late." My daughter-in-law swallowed hard. "Mom, we have to do this. We can't turn back now. I nodded, my throat tight. Fear, grief, and determination collided within me. My husband had left instructions, letters, and warnings for a reason. This wasn't just about uncovering a secret, it was about survival, about justice, about protecting what he had spent his life guarding. As we moved closer to the table, we noticed a small locked box tucked under one corner. The stranger gestured toward it. Inside that box is the key to the next part of the truth, but it's protected, and opening it will reveal more than you may be ready for. I felt my pulse race. The key, the box, the letters, the photographs, it was all part of a larger puzzle. And I knew that once we opened it, there would be no turning back. I reached for the box with trembling hands. And just as my fingers touched it, a cold, deliberate voice whispered from the shadows, "Choose wisely, or everything you love will be destroyed." I froze. The voice wasn't the stranger's, it was someone else. Someone closer. Someone who had been watching us all along. I looked up, my heart hammering. In the shadows, I saw a figure step forward. And I realized with horror that the betrayal wasn't just in the past, it was here, right in front of us. And now, the ultimate test of trust, courage, and survival had begun. I still remember that night. The rain had started again, pattering against the car roof as my daughter-in-law and I drove down winding, empty streets. The envelope from the stranger rested on my lap. The words burned into my mind. The next step will reveal the past stand, the betrayal you never suspected. My heart raced. I knew the next revelation would change everything. We parked near an old abandoned warehouse on the edge of town, the location written on the envelope. My daughter-in-law hesitated, her hands shaking as she reached for mine. "Mom, this place doesn't feel right," she whispered. I nodded silently, feeling the same unease, but there was no turning back. If this was the next step, we had to face it. The warehouse loomed before us, dark and silent. Its broken windows reflected the dim street lights, and the wind moaned through the gaps in the walls, making the structure feel alive. I could almost hear whispers coming from inside, as if the building itself knew the secrets we were about to uncover. We stepped inside cautiously. The air was cold and damp, carrying the faint smell of rust and dust. Our footsteps echoed, each sound amplified, making us feel exposed, vulnerable. I held the letters and the recorder tightly, as if they were shields against the unknown danger ahead. Then we saw it, a table in the center of the room, with photographs and old letters spread across it, just like the ones in the safe. My breath caught. The photographs showed people from my husband's past friends, family, strangers I didn't recognize. But one figure stood out. It was my husband, young, smiling, but there was something strange about the photograph. Another person, hidden in shadows, stood next to him. The posture, the hands. The face partially visible, it was the same person I had seen in the photograph from the safe. A chill ran down my spine. This was no coincidence. This was the secret, the dangerous, hidden truth my husband had protected all his life. My daughter-in-law pointed to a letter on the table. "Mom, this one. I think it explains everything." I picked it up carefully. The letter was old, yellowed with age, and the handwriting was deliberate, controlled. It read, "To the one who finds this, know that the family secret has been protected for generations. Betrayal runs deep. Those you trust most may not be loyal. The past is alive and the consequences are real. Protect the secret or everything will be lost." I felt a surge of fear and anger. Betrayal, the past alive, everything will be lost. My husband had been carrying this burden alone, and now, after his death, it was my responsibility to continue. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the warehouse. My heart leaped. Someone was approaching, someone deliberate, careful, and close. I grabbed my daughter-in-law's hand, pulling her behind a stack of crates. The letters and photographs were still spread on the table. Glowing faintly in the dim light, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was the stranger from before, the one who had handed us the envelope near the abandoned park. Their face was serious, eyes intense. "You found it," they said quietly. "The first pieces of the truth." But this is only the beginning. The family secret. It's bigger than you imagine. And the one you think you can trust the most. Maybe the very person behind the betrayal. My blood ran cold. I had suspected my daughter-in-law, my son, even my husband's brother. But now the idea that the betrayer could be anyone shook me to my core. I felt my hands tremble, my pulse racing. The stranger continued, "If you want to survive, you need to make a choice tonight. Follow the clues, uncover the truth, and prepare for the confrontation that will determine everything. But be warned, the next step will test your courage, your trust, and your family bonds. One wrong move, and it will be too late." My daughter-in-law swallowed hard. "Mom, we have to do this. We can't turn back now." I nodded, my throat tight. Fear, grief, and determination collided within me. My husband had left instructions, letters, and warnings for a reason. This wasn't just about uncovering a secret, it was about survival, about justice, about protecting what he had spent his life guarding. As we moved closer to the table, we noticed a small locked box tucked under one corner. The stranger gestured toward it. Inside that box is the key to the next part of the truth. But it's protected, and opening it will reveal more than you may be ready for. I felt my pulse race. The key, the box, the letters, the photographs, it was all part of a larger puzzle. And I knew that once we opened it, there would be no turning back. I reached for the box with trembling hands. And just as my fingers touched it, a cold, deliberate voice whispered from the shadows, "Choose wisely, or everything you love will be destroyed." I froze. The voice wasn't the stranger's. It was someone else. Someone closer. Someone who had been watching us all along. I looked up, my heart hammering. In the shadows, I saw a figure step forward. And I realized with horror that the betrayal wasn't just in the past, it was here, right in front of us. And now, the ultimate test of trust, courage, and survival had begun. If you've stayed with me till the end, thank you for listening to my story. It's a reminder that secrets, no matter how deep, always find their way to the light. And sometimes the greatest strength we have is the courage to face the truth. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support means the world to me and helps me share more stories that touch the heart and keep you on the edge of your seat.